Anyway, well, this is Man and Mulberry's Public Policy, where we talk about the ins and outs of the NFL. No, we talk about Collierville, Tennessee, a town just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and all of what's happening there, which is a lot. It's a town that's growing. And we talk about economic development. We go kind of behind the scenes on what's happening with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And we do that with John Duncan's on the big screen, but we'll introduce Maureen first. Ladies first, we are in the South. So Maureen Frazier is the vice mayor of Collierville, and she talks about what's happening, board mayor, that kind of stuff. Hope you're doing well, Maureen. And yes. Then John Duncan, Town Economic Development Director, who has a AUV in his name. Usually he'll have something different every day in his name, but he is Economic Development Director for the town of Collierville. And so, John, you're already on the big screen. So we introduced Maureen first, but we'll let you go first. What's this AUV stuff? What are we talking about?
Average unit volume. It's a term utilized in the restaurant industry to help people understand how much revenue a particular restaurant will generate. And I always love this time of year because toward the end of the year, I look at all these restaurants that I've been pursuing, courting, to decide, do I keep them on the list? Do I take them off the list? And then I sort of segue from that to, who do I add to the list? What new concepts are out there? Who's growing? Who's building restaurants? Who's doing well? Who's got attractive AUVs, et cetera? And sort of kind of regroup and revise and update my pursuit list as relates to restaurants. So that's what I'm kind of in the middle of right now. And I love it because it involves a lot of research. And a lot of the information that I need is hard to find, but it's out there. But, we're not going to subscribe. A lot of these services want $50,000, $100,000 a year to give you all this information. Well, I can find it through different avenues on my own. So that's what I typically do. So that's where I am, and that's what's going on right now with me.
So what comes to the top of that list? When you found that stuff? Anything interesting that might be appealing to Collierville?
How much time do we have on the show?
What's the best?
Of course.
You can have the whole show, John. You can have the whole show. Obviously,
people be asleep if I had the whole show. Well, I'm kind of where I am typically is, a lot of these restaurants are going to come here organically, whether I'm out there pursuing them or not, just because of location, the market, our demographics. They're going to come. And typically those would be the smaller, burger, pizza, chicken type establishments that are going to come because of who we are, where we are, and what we are. But we continue to promote our brand to those people so they understand what they're coming to. But what takes a little more skill, I guess, and strategy would be pursuing larger restaurants that will probably have to build something, that have much higher revenues, much higher AUVs, like Portillo's is one that's on my list right now. Maureen, I think, is familiar with that brand. It's a Chicago-based, fast casual restaurant that does the Chicago hot dogs, Italian beef. They've got a pizza product, and it's a really hot brand, and it's growing, and it's very popular. And what I like about them is their average unit volume is an unprecedented for the type of restaurant that they are, is like $7.5 to $8 million a year.
Wow.
Put that in perspective. A Whataburger is going to do 3. Chick-fil-A is going to do 4. So a place like Portillo's is popular, is hot, and they're growing, and they're looking at new locations. I mean, I'm wasting my time by talking to or pursuing somebody that's not expanding. And if they are expanding, not expanding into our market, why pursue somebody that's building stores on the Atlantic coast when they have no thoughts of coming in our direction? But I got to find those things out, and there's ways to find those out. But Portillo's is expanding into the Southeast to include Nashville. So obviously that's something that I'm after. And what I really like about them is it's growing, and they got a very high average unit AUV number, which interests me. And like, for example, like that Tupelo Honey that we've talked about before, which is an American casual dining restaurant, much like SOB or Jim's Place or Longhorn, someplace like that, that's $5 million per store. Connor's Steakhouse, $5 million per store. Firebirds, for example, to put in context, does $4 to $5 million per store. So I typically really try to organize myself to pursue those types of establishments because there's a lot of benefits of having them in our community.
When you didn't mention that, I don't know how it's doing, but I forget about it as I live in a different area now than I used to. But we talk about Carriage Crossing a lot, and my daughter went from church to Red Robin the other day, and she said it was packed. She said that there was there was a wait. It was tables were there. It was packed, and they had good staff and that kind of stuff. So maybe that's a little bit of a bucking the trend of when we usually talk about Carriage Crossing, everybody's like, but but Red Robin is one of those regional or national chains that it's come. I don't know how well they're doing or if it's a local franchisor or what's happening there, but I think that restaurant gets overlooked a little bit. I
think it does. Red Robin's a national brand. A typical Red Robin is going to do about $3 million a year in sales, which is impressive. What's interesting, I love the mixing and matching. So we've got that new building being built in front of the health club where a Chipotle and a Jersey Mike's is going in. The sales of a Chipotle and a Jersey Mike's together is about $3 million. So that equals one Red Robin. So it's interesting that building will generate the same type of revenue that a Red Robin generates. Chipotle's growing their volume. Jersey Mike's is growing their volume. So suddenly that $3 million revenue facility could be 3.2, 3.7, 4. And that's really what I try to look for and look at when I'm strategizing on who to spend my time chasing around. But yeah, Red Robin's is a good brand. I had a meeting this week, believe it or not, through all the snow with the folks that built Carriage. They've sold it, but they still own and manage the power center behind Carriage. And he told me, we talked about Red Robin because they've got some out parcels in front of that power center there at Houston Levee and Shelby Drive. And behind the power center, Grant is building 308 homes, and they're extending Houston Levee south. And then right to the west of that power center is a 60-unit owner-occupied townhouse project. So that part of town is getting some residential growth, which will help the power center. And because of that, they're getting more phone calls than they've had in about 5 years on the out parcels that sit in front of that power center where Goodwill is and urban areas is what we're talking about. They've got 3 out parcels there. And he said suddenly the interest on those out parcels is pretty strong. And it's because that part of town is starting to grow again and bubble up. And in the meantime, I've got a conference call on Friday with the group that seems to be narrowing in and honing in on purchasing Carriage Crossing. In fact, in advance of our call for Friday, I sent him a bunch of data and information and renderings about what's going on in Collierville. So when we talk, he knows what's happening around Carriage and in Collierville, and it's all positive.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I hope something happens there. I mean, I know that it's a big investment for somebody, right? So these things don't happen fast. This goes back to your glacier term, but it's something's going to happen down there. Collierville's too strong for that to just die. I mean, I think something's going to happen down there, and it's going to be revitalized, and it's going to be, a cool spot. I hope so. And then, of course, I'm always raise eyebrow a little bit at the things that come right off of interstate exits, but that's more of a policing type issue, But I think, we can get into that. But one other thing and we'll go to Maureen for BMA updates, but you had said, I think you made a kind of an offhand comment that you might know something about, you mentioned Jersey Mike's, but the other sandwich shop, the one that's been kind of sitting there at Byhalia and Poplar, but had Jimmy John's, but hasn't come in yet. Did you know something about that? Any updates on that?
No, but here's what's interesting about that. What do you think a Jimmy John's does in annual AUV? What do you think their AUV is, Jimmy John's?
I'd go with I don't know, 1.2.
I guess a good guess. 900,000.
900,000.
A Jersey Mike's is 750,000. So that a Subway, Jersey Mike's, Jimmy John's are going to do 600 to $1 million in sales, which is it's just significant, and that we like that, and it's a great product. But that store that hasn't opened was the store that was owned by, and that's another thing when you're pursuing these restaurants. Some are company owned, some are company owned and franchised, some are all franchised. Hey, we'd love a Kilwins. I've been chasing Kilwins forever, but they need a franchisee first. And it's not really my job to run out there and chase franchisees around, but the people that had the franchise for that Jimmy John's had other careers that sort of interfered with their ability to put their focus on that. It's since been sold to another franchisee, and I really don't know the status on where that is as far as opening. But I'm being interviewed by ABC TV next week because I think I've shared this. She saw on Nextdoor where there was something wrong with the Collierville economy because Jimmy John's hasn't opened and Pimento's shut down. What's wrong with the economy? Nothing. In fact, we're going to do the interview there in Schilling Farms in front of the two 6,000 square foot out parcels that are being built next door. The Marriott Town Place is coming in the shadows of the IMC corporate headquarters. So there's nothing wrong with our economy. In fact, broken record, it's pretty solid right now. So yeah, I don't know what the latest is with that Jimmy John's, but it'll open up soon enough, I'm sure.
There was someone on social media that seemed to have the inside scoop, and the last comment I saw is it's going to be opening soon. That's what this person said. So, it's not the gloom and the doom, how some people say, but this person seemed to know. So we'll see if that comes true.
Yeah. It's a great location. It's an in and out place. So
yeah, it'll be a good. It'll do. I bet it would be higher end throughout the system on its AUV throughout the Jimmy John system. I bet it would be one of their higher end stores, like we see with the Slim Chickens being on the higher end of theirs. I think we'd be on the higher end. What do we know? I said I'd let you go and go to Maureen, but one more question. Do we know anything about Grisani's?
Well, I did not know that they were their lease was expiring, and there was and they'd be closing down. That Saturday was their last night of business, and I called over there and talked to, I would say, somebody in management. Let's put it that way, and they basically didn't want to make a lot of comments, but they said there's a lot of things still in the works, and they weren't quite ready yet to share the specifics of what their next step's going to be. But it sounded like there is a plan, and they're working on something. But at least in the conversation with me, he might have shared this with the checkout lady at Kroger for all I know, but he didn't tell me the specifics of the next steps for that restaurant. A lot of speculation around town, but we shall see. It sounded like they were going to remain in our market, but we'll see. I think it's a great brand, and it had a great following, and people know what they're going to get when they go there. And it's good service and great quality. So wherever they go, I think they'll do well. I think they're closing in on that.
Yeah, we would eat there probably once a month on average, maybe sometimes more. It's one of our favorite places. So I hope they do. I think what we heard, and you guys can quote it here first. Maureen said she heard something about Jimmy John's coming soon, and John says something about Grisani's relocating. So you heard it here first. Grisani's is coming to the Jimmy John's location by Hilly and Poplar. We'll be opening up on the corner. Put two and two together, we can do the math. No, I hope that they do. I hope that they come back and that they get a good location. It had to be hard for traffic at the back of Sheffield's. I mean, it was cool because you could walk around while you're waiting on to-go order and that kind of stuff. It's very cool. But I imagine that's pretty hard to continue to bring people in. Like if you had some sort of frontage drive-by, traffic coming there. So hopefully they've proven their model and now they're expanding. Okay.
Well, and I do think that was, they did very well there. I think they would tell you that, but I think if, every restaurant has challenges. I would think they would tell you one of their challenges was being back there, sort of depending on what's going on with the antiques place and everything, how that affects. So I think they're looking for more of a standalone or more of an independent location, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and Ashby could affect that. If anything ever gets approved with Ashby, it could affect what happens there, depending on what happens with Ashby.
Well, speaking of that, the Collierville Funeral Home is moving to that new location there at Bailey and Winchester. It really looks good. I was over there the other day. It really is nice. I was impressed with it. And then I was told by the brokerage community in Memphis that old location was a perfect spot for a restaurant, has great visibility, location, bones. Let's convert that into a restaurant. Well, I heard a couple of days ago.
You can't say that.
What's that?
You can't say that.
What'd I say?
You're talking about bones in a funeral home, man.
Hey, I didn't do that on purpose.
It's got good bones. It's got good bones. Yeah, right. Yeah.
People are dying to get in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But then I heard that it was maybe going to be another funeral home. So I don't know what's going on with that. I need to find out on that. But yeah, that's a great location for whatever's going to go there. I was getting excited. A gateway to the square, Poplar Avenue. I agreed with the brokers. It would be a great restaurant location.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people raising their eyebrows when Slim Chickens came and some of the things saying, is that the right area for a restaurant? Is that but it is, and I think it does pull more people and like gateway to the square and that kind of stuff. Yep. If we could get some decent roads from there on, we'd be in good shape. And we got it. So that leads me to Maureen. She knows I'm going to make a dig about the roads on Poplar, about the square every time. But John, do you have anything else before you wrap up?
Dig.
No, but that's funny you mentioned Slim Chickens, because I drive around town with a critical eye. And as I drove into the square the other day, I looked at Slim Chickens and was looking at their landscaping and their structure and their materials and their signage and the whole layout. It looks good, man. I'm impressed with what they did with that restaurant, because it's a little different than their normal store, but they wanted to make sure they fit into the community, and they did that, and they've been successful. So I think it looks good. I agree with you.
But yeah, you guys know I have a place over in Arkansas, and the Slim Chickens over there are nothing like that one. I mean, this one seems like in Collierville more like a flagship. Usually they're kind of stuck on the end of a strip or something like that, and much smaller. But so yeah, great establishment. So.
Well, it's kind of like the Aldi there, Keith. One more thing. Yeah. It's kind of like the Aldi. That Aldi is different looking than most Aldis you'll see out there, and that was because of where they wanted to put it and what we required of them if they were going to put it there. And I think they adhered well as well. So,
yeah, I think people forget about Aldi too. That's a powerhouse national brand. So, I mean, I think it's crazy when you drive around Collierville, and that's what makes it so hard, because you see, it seems some things do go out. And they weren't right either for their location or whatever. But you've got to think about Collierville this is not a one road town, really. I mean, the things are going to come and go as the natural kind of part of the economy goes. And a lot of it is about what the people want, what you frequent. No place that has got lines out the door is going out of business. And so it's about the decisions that the consumers are making as well, and how they're experiencing the city. And as you segment off and I go this direction versus I kind of stay in my little pocket, all that plays into it, So I don't think there'll ever be a time, or very rarely be a time, that in a city like Collierville, and I say city intentionally, in a city like Collierville, that something's not, on the forefront of coming in and something else potentially going out and things changing. That's just part of it, right? Yeah. So it's not indicative of Miss ABC anchor. It's not indicative of anything other than a normal economy. And I hope you tell her that.
Well, and Keith, that's what the broker that I met with this week about the power center on Shelby said about carriage. He says Carriage Crossing's challenges has nothing to do with its location and the demographics that surround it. It has everything to do with the changing face of American retail, period.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's another, you've got just patterns in the way that people, the way people behave nationally, or you start to come in. I mean, it's a different deal, and that affects Collierville. We're not immune to all that, although we do pretty well being immune to some national downward trends. But it's just things change, that's just part of it. So, okay, Maureen, what is coming to the Harley Davidson building?
You know, I don't know. John may know the answer to that question.
Well, I don't. I'm taking all of Maureen's time, so I need to shut up.
That's okay, because I was going to kind of type in when the article was written about croissantes. My first comment was, well, maybe they're going to go in one of the restaurants in front of Schilling Farms. So we know south of Beale is coming. Is there another restaurant coming or being built in that other building, John? Do you know?
I don't know. That brokerage group is great, and I love working with them, but they're being pretty tight-lipped, and I get that. A lot of times they don't want things to get out. But there's a part of me that says, you know, a lot of times these contracts are written where the one restaurant doesn't want another restaurant next door.
Yeah.
And then there's the thought process of, yeah, one restaurant and another restaurant side by side is a good thing for both. But the restaurants better be similar in clientele, because you wouldn't put a SOB next door to a Huddle House, for example, with all due respect to the Huddle House. It's a different demographic and a different market. So I don't know what the strategy is for those two pads. I'm trying to find out. So, but I don't know what's going to happen with Grisanti's, Maureen, unless you're getting ready to tell us something.
The article said that they were going to stay in Collierville, and they were 6 to 12 months away. And I think I heard one of their challenges was when the antique shop closes, they have to close. Yeah. So you can't stay late and have a glass of wine or what have you at the restaurant, because they're in partnership with the antique mall.
Yeah.
And then also to add on to Red Robin, you know, the restaurants at Carriage Crossing, in my opinion, are doing really well. You don't have any parking issues. There's plenty of parking, and that's important for restaurants. But every once in a while, because my son lives down in Collierville Farms, we would meet him for dinner at Red Robin. And during COVID and all, you know, they may have the bar area with some tables in it, but nothing in the restaurant. Well, we walked in one day last week, and oh my goodness, there were so many people. I'm like, what happened? Because usually we can get in, order, get out, get a salad, whatever. And they actually were doing a fundraising night for the FedEx Family House. And it was I guess it's the FedEx Wives Association, a nonprofit within FedEx. Right. And so there were a lot of people there that I knew. And of course the waiter was like, are you here for the fundraiser? And I'm like, well, am I? What is it? So Red Robin, yes, like your daughter said, Keith. I mean, I don't know, but for a restaurant in this day and age to be willing to give back 10, 15, 20% of their sales that night, that says a lot. That says a lot about a lot of the restaurants in our community.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, you know, you see that a lot, and I don't know if you see it in other communities like you see it in Collierville, but you see it a lot in Collierville, right? And I think, you know, Red Robin is in a pretty good position because of where they're situated there. But I hope that in terms of Carriage Crossing overall, that someone does buy it and come in. I think that it needs some help. You know, it needs some help. It needs some maintenance. You know, it needs some lights in the parking lot, things like that. I mean, it just needs it needs it. But I would encourage whoever, you know, to go ahead and purchase it, because I think it can be something. You know, I mean, I think that it just needs to be revitalized a little bit. Yeah. So, what else happening with the BMA, or what's happening?
We're getting ready. We're starting actually this afternoon, Thursday afternoon, with the work session. And I believe we're going to be meeting every Thursday from now through April, possibly into May and June, working on the budget and all the components that go into the budget. Our town administrator, Molly Maynor, she's doing great. She's, in my opinion, she's like a sponge. I mean, it's amazing what she's been exposed to and the knowledge that she has already from everything that's going on. I mean, Leadership Collierville was at Town Hall last Thursday, and she gave a presentation, and Mayor Joyner's like, man, she talks like she's been here for years already. So, So everything is going well. So we'll work on the budget, see where we are, what the department heads need. We're starting today with our IT division. We have an IT director now. And, you know, security is always on the forefront. And how can we keep safe all of our files and all of our finances and all of that. So we're going to hear about that, and engineering, something to do with Dale and engineering and drainage. So it's going to be an exciting afternoon for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Let's talk about sewage.
Yeah,
Let's run.
That scares the poop out of me. But the but I tell you it's a big deal from the IT standpoint, and I hope that we earmark quite a bit of budget there. And I think it's bigger than the town and its finances and kind of those siege type attacks and things like that, because Collierville runs infrastructure. Collierville runs a water plant, water facility. And so, there's some things that really could do damage if you don't have the right security in place there that are dangerous to the people that live here. So it's as much of a concern from my standpoint, and my background's going to lean that way, but it's as much of a concern as it is having actual police on the street. Having security from an IT and a digital standpoint is huge. So glad to hear about the dedicated person there, and we need to lean into that. I'd definitely I would be an advocate for earmarking quite a bit of dollars there from a budgetary standpoint.
Yeah, we've added personnel in that division, and there's everything that's going to technology and more technology, and now the water pumping stations and a lot of the sewer treatment plants is all done. The controls are all done through an app on a computer or on your phone. So just like the lights at the parks can be turned on and turned off at the tennis courts by the app on your phone. So everything is going into technology, but also storage and safety and security. They talk about the cloud and the backups and the backup to the backup and all of that none of us, I don't quite understand, but as long as it's keeping safe and secure, and my phone and my laptop and my computers all work when I need it, then we know we're well. But you talk about sewage, people just take it for granted, that you use the restroom and you flush and it goes somewhere and it's taken care of. And you look at communities that are having to boil water or having to drink bottled water, and we just take it for granted that everything's perfect in Collierville and everything, I'm going to have what I need. We had a water main break last evening in the freeze at Shelton Road and Peterson Lake, right by fire station number 3. And our employees worked through the night to fix that, but they were able to narrow down by different language, but they were able to the only people who didn't have water through the night was the fire station and the fire admin building. So none of the residents were affected, but there were some residents initially that had low water pressure, and they were concerned, is my water safe to drink? Can I drink my water? And it was just for a short period of time last evening. But yes, our water was safe. They were able to get on it right away. They worked through the night to fix it. And my understanding this morning, the road was still closed because they were fixing the pavement. But it has to do with the temperatures and the freeze, I'm sure, and something happened underground. But to know that our employees were out last night working in the 30, whatever the temperature was, we just, again, you take it for granted that everything's going to be working when you need it to be working and safe when you want it to be safe.
Right. And you don't pay a whole lot for it, really. I mean, if you look at taxes, as a percentage of someone's income with Collierville's average income, you're not, a lot gets done there. I mean, for it. So I think I've always been a proponent for a little bit more taxes if needed, especially when it comes to policing and those type of things. But and that seems to be, have you heard anything on that? I mean, I'm hearing things like, there's somebody is shoplifting at one of the stores and we've got 45 cops with machine guns on them. It seems like we're doing pretty good on keeping things down. Or what are you hearing?
Yes, everything in Collierville is good. We're always looking to hire, but at this point, I believe we're fully staffed, which is amazing and it's important. But, I went to a ceremony last week for I guess it was earlier this week. It seems like it was last week. All these snow days, you just don't know what day of the week it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Our lieutenant, we had a lieutenant promotion, and it's a young man, Lucas Felton, who was born, raised, grew up in Collierville, became a Collierville police officer, and he was promoted, went through the promotion process, and he's now a lieutenant. And when the discussion was, you have different employees applied, and Chief Lane said it was a very competitive process. They have written exams, they have interviews, all kinds, but he said the number one, what they're looking for in the police officers is character.
Sure.
And and Lucas, I know Lucas Felton and all of our officers, character is so important. You look at what's happened in the Memphis Police Department, and we've all been exposed to videos and the news, whether you wanted to watch it or not. And we need to keep Collierville. That's what I keep saying, the quality. And we all need to make sure we hire people that have the character that are going to look out for the residents and take care of our citizens.
Yeah. So when you say that we are fully staffed, that means that we believe, again, we're always hiring because somebody could leave or anything could happen. So you're always interviewing, you're always looking at hiring, but we believe that the number that has been earmarked and from a budgetary standpoint, you go to through a budget process and it says we need 110 police officers or whatever is in the budget, and you're budgeting for employment dollars or whatever it is that you're approving there. It has a number to it, and you're saying that we're at that number. So we are staffed exactly to the number that we want to be staffed at. We're not understaffed. We believe that what we projected we need for the town, we have hit that. We have hit that number of police officers. Is that what you're saying?
We have, based on the population and the developed area of Collierville, we have different districts and zones. And yes, we are fully staffed. Now we're constantly looking at that as the development is added into the community. How does that affect our infrastructure? What do we need? And that's part of the budget process that we'll be discussing again coming up real soon with Chief Lane. Is where are we? Do we need more officers? Can we handle what we have? We have some officers that may go on military leave, and we have to leave their position open, so other people have to cover. We have inspectors now. We had a discussion the other day. How much time are the upper level police staff? How often are they in the cars, just driving around to know the community? I believe they're out there a lot. We just don't see them because they're not in a regular police car. So we want to make sure we have the best, the brightest, and we have plenty to keep Collierville safe. And we want to keep the criminals out of Collierville. We want to keep the message that if you come to Collierville, you're going to get caught. But there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of technology with that as well. In addition to the
cameras and all that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want to talk about this or comment on it, Maureen, but we had a I don't want to call it a bomb scare, but some sort of phone call scare at the school last week, and evidently the person that initiated that was apprehended in a very short period of time. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. A phone call was made. It was a 16-year-old. It wasn't a Collierville resident that made the call. I believe the call went to Goddard School as well. There was also some calls, I guess, made into the city of Memphis, but it was the Collierville detectives, my understanding, that did the research and got this person and interviewed this person, apprehended this person. So, I think that was actually Monday of this week.
Was it? Yeah.
But it seems like it was a long time ago. But, they based on a call that was made by the school system to someone within the, ATF.
Uh-huh.
They were advised to evacuate, which I don't know but they evacuated the school. All the students were evacuated, and they were housed at Collierville First Baptist Church until they could all go back into school. So again, there you have the community coming together. What other community? What church? I mean, there's a church down the street. They were able to get there safely, have warmth and heat, and stay inside until they were able to get back to school.
Because we had a plan. We just didn't say, where are we going to go? Hey, walk down the street to the Baptist church. They already had a partnership or an agreement with the church that should anything like this ever happen, that was an outlet for the students to seek shelter at. So I applaud Collierville for having a plan and a strategy in place to deal with things like this.
Yeah, that kind of part of that active shooter training and all that type of stuff that unfortunately schools have to have in place and stuff like that. So if something happens, you hit the big red button and everybody knows what to do. And yeah, that's good. And it's good to hear that we're staffed. That how much would you say, Maureen? And this is, I hate to put you on the spot, but if you don't know, you don't know. But what percentage of the overall budget would you say goes into policing security?
Well, our public safety, which is police and fire, is about 80% of our budget.
80%.
And a lot of it is personnel. Personnel costs for the whole town. Well, maybe I'm not saying that right. I'll need to find an exact number. But personnel costs for the employees for the whole town is a huge amount. And it is the personnel, but we need the personnel. The cars. I mean, people complain about how many blue lights you have on a police car and how much does that cost? Well, that keeps the police officer safe. It may be blinding to you when you're coming across a police officer pulled over, but that hopefully will get you away from them so you can keep the people at the scene.
Do people really complain? People really complain about that? How many blue lights there's on a police car?
Too many blue lights. I've heard it.
Is it John? John, are you the one complaining about lights? What's happening?
Heck no, man. I was shaking my head too. I go, people complain about stuff like folks need to get a hobby around here, or maybe a job or something, if that's what they're sitting around complaining about.
Well,
we've got one of the
Come on, no doubt. You need to go home, flush your toilet, look at it, and be thankful it went away. That's what we're talking about, right, Maureen?
Yeah, there's so many services that are provided that it just happens. It's just
right.
You don't even know it's happening, but it's happening.
Right. But you know as well as anybody, Maureen, that behind the scenes for all these things just to happen, there's a lot of work involved and a lot of thought involved to make it all just happen, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We know that in technology. I'll tell you, if you go to, when you develop websites and things like that, when you go to a website or a software system and you remark that, man, this is just really easy to use, that means that a whole hell of a lot went on in the background to make it easy. That's the way it works, right? And the same thing happens in a town. If it's easy, if you flush the toilet and it just goes away every time and it's easy, that means somebody's done something all in the back end. I don't want that job, but somebody's done something all in the back end. The same thing with policing and feeling safe and those type of things. It's a massive undertaking, $100 million undertaking, the last I heard from what it takes to run this town. So so I'm glad that everything is moving there. We feel good with all the news that we hear of what's coming on in Memphis and security and the policing and the challenges there, that we feel like we are staffed appropriately and that we are able to handle what's coming at us. We are seeing a little bit more crime that we hear about now happening, but we seem to be pretty prepared for it. Like I said, we seem to be, very much reacting to it. So, I mean, I think, people want to know that. And I feel like that it's good to hear a reinforcing type message there. Anyway, we're a couple of minutes over time. Maybe they have somebody brought a pet and it's cooking a keyboard, but we're a couple minutes over time. But thanks, guys. I think we got a pretty good show today. We had some updates on what's some of the potential things coming to town, what some of the restaurants are looking for, what they're doing in gross sales, the type of things we're trying to attract. Talked about BMA a little bit, what's happening there, what's happening with Carriage Crossing, which is on the top of everybody's minds a little bit. And also got into a little bit about policing, given what's going on in Memphis right now, national news there, and how Collierville is faring. So I think a good show, guys. I appreciate all of you. We've got Alderman Missy Marshall saying thanks. Thanks, Missy, as well. Hope you'll come back and join us again one day. And we appreciate everybody's time and everybody watching us. And feel free to drop questions into the chat. We'll try to get to them. And everybody have a good week.
Bye-bye. Take care. Stay warm.